Hi, and welcome to another edition of Conservation Conversations. I'm Michael Howe, Executive Communications Coordinator with the PUD. And joining me today, again, is Matthias Jarvergren, Utility Services Advisor. Great to have you back.
Thank you.
And, in our first edition, we talked a little bit about the mandates as a result of the Washington Energy Independence Act that are facing the PUD. We talked a little bit about why we do conservation beyond that, being that it's just the right thing to do.
Right.
But we also talked a little bit about and concluded with the fact that our efforts are really a partnership with our customers. So I'd like to reflect on that for just a moment. Can you go back over that?
Yeah, sure. When we look at energy conservation as a power resource, it's different from all the other power resources that we utilize, where we could just go out on the market and negotiate a power contract with one power developer and purchase electrical output. For energy efficiency, we need to engage with every single one of our 30,000 customers, which is one reason really why we're putting together these videos here, to show you a little bit about what we're doing to help you manage your energy costs at the same time as we're supporting our own energy efficiency efforts.
Absolutely. So as we work towards that partnership, one of the things we want to do is to help sort of educate and inform folks about some of the different terminologies. And one thing that I'd like you to discuss for a moment is the difference between energy efficiency and energy conservation. We hear both of the terms, but what do they mean? Are they the same?
In fact, they're very different. For instance, energy conservation really would mean saving energy just for the sake of saving energy.
Okay.
If we were engaged in energy conservation, we'd tell our customers that you can't heat your homes to more than 55 degrees. We'd save a ton of energy and we'd become great heroes, right? No, it would be a terrible situation where nobody would be happy. But rather what we're doing is we're engaging in energy efficiency, where we're trying to save energy while at the same time maintaining the same standard of living and comfort levels, sometimes even better standards of living and comfort level as a result of our energy efficiency programs. So we do tend to use the terms interchangeably, but what we're doing is energy efficiency every time, and that is the nature of our programs.
Right. So for the customers that hear conservation, the term conservation used either by the Bonneville Power Administration or other entities, really it's all about energy efficiency.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay. Now, one of the more popular places people look, of course, is their home when we're doing energy efficiency work. And the home is kind of complex. So before we jump into future videos, let's talk a little bit about the complexity of that system.
Right, sure. We tend to think of the energy in our homes fairly simply. We just turn on the switch and expect the light to come on. The heater kicks on when it's too cold and it warms the house back up. But really what we'd want to do is we want to consider our homes holistically, so that nothing that we do makes the home worse off somehow. Our homes is really a complex systems where we have moisture entering our homes through our breathing and the cooking and cleaning we have. And we have stale air that's in our homes because we tend to exhale there, so we need to bring in fresh air into our homes so we have fresh air. And when we do add insulation or do other energy saving measures, we don't in any fashion want to cause some of that moisture to build up somewhere. So it's really good to remember and think of our homes as kind of a complex interactive system as opposed to just a home.
Sure, sure, that makes sense. And now one of the things you do when you go out and talk about energy efficiency and conservation is give a little bit of a science lesson, if you will. And it'd be great if you could do that with us here today, especially when it comes to how air flows, and then we'll get into some other terminology in a moment. But.
Sure, certainly. And the first thing that's good to know is really just how heat moves. Heat moves from hot to cold, always. That's the way it is. There is some misconception.
Heat always rises, doesn't it?
That is not true at all.
Oh.
It's kind of a common misconception that's out there that is just plain false. Anytime there's a temperature differential, the heat will move from hot to cold. For instance, in our homes, if our home is warm and the outside is cold, heat will move through the wall. It will move sideways because there's a temperature differential between the inside and outside. And hence, we really want to insulate below and to the sides and above our homes at the same time.
All right. Well, that makes sense. Now, a couple of the other terms that we talk about, and it's important to know about when we're looking at the efficiency of our homes and other structures for that matter, is convection, conduction, and radiation. What are those?
Well, those are the three ways the heat moves. The conductive heat transfer is anytime there's a physical contact between some different objects. For an example, If you have a hot pan on your stove, when you grab that pan and your hand
Right.
touches it, there immediately is a lot of conductive heat
Indeed.
transfer. In our homes, the conductive heat transfer is through the physical contact between the inside and the outside,
Oh.
typically the studs in the floor joists, and the truss structure up in the attic.
Okay.
Secondly, then, convective heat transfer is a heat transfer when there's any type of air movement. So, for instance, in the ductwork, that tends to oftentimes leak way too much. The warm air that blows through the ductwork and then potentially leaks out through any cracks and seals is convective heat losses.
Right.
So we want to eliminate convective heat losses by doing air sealing and duct sealing, similar energy saving measures like that.
Okay. And radiative?
Finally, radiative heat loss is when heat just radiates through infinite space, essentially. It also happens in our home. I mean, the best example to just explain the term is the sun, that there's no physical contact between the Earth and the sun, yet every day the sun radiates a lot of warmth
Right.
to our planet. In our homes, the radiative heat losses we typically experience as in a lack of comfort. For instance, if we have old single pane windows in our homes, those windows typically be very cold because it's just one single pane of glass that's in contact with the outside. And it doesn't matter if you heat your home out to 70 degrees. As long as you have lots of cold panes of glass around you, you yourself will constantly radiate heat to those windows and just feel a little chill, even though the air temperature is kind of warm. So this has a bearing on the comfort that we perceive.
Okay. Well, let's end this video with a little overview of where we use our energy.
Yeah, certainly. Good. And first thing to note is about half the energy we use in our home is to heat the home.
Right.
It's kind of makes sense around here. Most of us know that we do a lot of space heating around here. After that, about 19% of our energy use goes for water heating, so that heating water for all the cooking and cleaning and the showers that we do in our homes. If you look on a national average, which is really the data we have to work
Right.
on, about 6% or so of the energy use goes to space cooling. But of course, most of you know that we don't do a lot of space cooling around here in the peninsula. Maybe a week or so in the summertime. It gets really hot.
Sure.
After that, there's about 19% of energy use associated with the appliance energy use.
Right. So
And-
washer, dryer.
Exactly. The 19% is kind of an amalgamation of the different appliance energy uses, but it also includes other plug loads like your TV and clock radios and those things.
Okay.
And finally, about 9% of the energy that we use in our homes goes to illuminating our homes when it's too dark to do anything.
Okay. All right. Well, this was a great overview, a nice little science lesson in there as well. And in future editions of Conservation Conversations, we're going to talk about specific measures we can take at home, and we might even go on location on site for some of those
Looking forward
discussions.
to it.
All right. So thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you next month on another edition of Conservation Conversations.